Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of No Niche Zone, the podcast about everything. I'm your host, Priscilla Davies, and we're back for another episode because that's what I just said. I just said, welcome back. Sometimes you just got to double down instead of halving up. Oh man, sometimes I make up dad jokes on the spot. You're going to find out more things about me as this podcast goes on. Y'all, how's everybody doing? I'm doing well. I have to say, I have become a victim of Trump's tariff policies, guys. I have officially become a victim of his tariff policies. So because of Trump's new tariff policies, there's been all kinds of confusion as we expect. And, they've created like new standards that creates a whole bunch of confusion. And I had something shipped from DHL from India. Okay. And I just moved into my new place and this is the last thing that I'm waiting on for my new place. And I had this shipped in DHL. And when I heard that it was coming DHL, I was very, very excited about that. Okay. Because I was like, oh, DHL is that great. Well, not anymore, because DHL announced that they were no longer going to, or there was going to be like considerable delays dealing with any customs packages coming into the US because of these new tariffs. Basically, DHL is trying to stick it to Donald Trump by being like, screw you, we're going to inconvenience the people. And I guess they think that that's going to make us the people like fight against, I don't know. I don't know. But they're trying to fight with Donald Trump. And so now my freaking package has been sitting in Cincinnati for over 10 days now. I think it's like 11 days now. And I don't even know, like, am I going to get this package? Is it going to make it to me? That's the question. Is it going to get sent? And y'all tell me why I got an email. They're asking me for my social security number. My name as it appears on my social security card. In addition to other identifying factors in order for them to process my freaking shipment, my package, y'all. We're talking about a freaking package from India. Can you believe that? They want me to send it and no, like, here's a secure link, send in your social security number. No, just send it to this random email and some dude at DHL is just gonna, make sure that we protect, like, y'all. So I am a victim of the Trump tariffs. Pray for me. Pray for my desk. That's what I ordered. Pray for my package. Pray for me. Respect to the law. Respect to halal. Respect to halal. Respect to the law. Okay? Okay, guys. So let's get into our show, shall we? All right. As I'm sure many of you have heard, Shannon Sharpe, the podcasting host of Club Shay Shay, former athlete, professional athlete, former commentator, I believe on ESPN, Shannon Sharpe was accused of sexual assault in a lawsuit for $50 million that was filed by attorney Tony Busby on behalf of a 20-year-old Jane Doe. Okay? So if that name Tony Busby is sounding familiar to you, that's because this is the same attorney who went after P. Diddy. He's the same attorney that went after Jay-Z. And he's the same attorney that's been going after other black rappers in the game who have been accused of sexual assault. Okay? And this sexual assault lawsuit was filed on behalf of a 20-year-old. Now, guys, remember, Shannon Sharpe is how old? 56, okay? I'm sure some of you did not know that. So, Shannon Sharpe is 56 years old, and a 20-year-old has come out accusing him of sexual assault during their 2-year relationship that the 20-year-old described as tumultuous. Okay. Now she came out as a Jane Doe, and Sharpe, he outed her. He outed her identity on the end. Isn't it? Isn't that illegal? Shouldn't that be legal? I'm sure it's not because he's being, advised by his attorneys. So I'm sure it's not illegal, but like it should be. What do you mean that I am, filing a complaint against you as a Jane Doe, and then you go out there and you expose me to the public? That's ridiculous. So that's how we found out that this was a 20-year-old who had been in a relationship with Sharpe when she was 19 years old, and he was 55, y'all. And according to her, she was allegedly sexually assaulted by him. Now, here's the thing about this situation. One thing that I've noticed is a lot of people have been focusing on the age gap. A lot of people have been focusing on the race aspect of it because this young woman is not black, and I believe she's either white or Latina or white Latina. And this young woman, so people have been focusing on like the race aspect of it. They've been talking about, quote, race play when it comes to this situation. They've been focusing on the age gap. But I feel like, which, I think are valid aspects of this discussion, but I feel like we're missing the biggest part of this discussion, which is this girl. And yes, I'm saying girl, because even though she's 20, I'm sorry, but you're a girl. You're at the very least a young woman, but you're pretty much just a girl. This 20-year-old young woman has accused this man of rape. And she has produced text messages, alleged text messages, but she's produced text messages backing up her claim. And I feel like everybody is glossing over this when it comes to the situation to focus on the age gap and to focus on the race difference and the race play. And here's another black man getting involved with the white woman who's turned around to accuse him of rape. But I'm like, we are just bypassing the actual crux of this, which is that she's accused this man of rape. So the alleged victim, the 20-year-old young woman, she produced some text messages in response, which I think this is so interesting, in response to Shannon Sharpe releasing alleged text messages that he says are from the 20-year-old victim, alleged victim, from when they were still involved with each other. And he released all of these text messages that basically were trying to refute her claim of sexual assault by, because they were sexually explicit and they referred to things like BDSM and fetishes and rough play, if you will. And he released these, right, to try to obviously smear her and be like, look at her, look at this, look at this slut, that's how they be thinking, So it was to malign her reputation, but also it was to try to say like, look at this, she likes rough play, she likes all, she likes this rough, this kinky talk and all this. So like, how could I sexually assault somebody who likes rough play? Which is just, we're going to be talking about that, but it's like, hello. So he releases these, to try to poke holes into her story and to try to malign her character and her reputation. And she ends up punching back by releasing her own alleged text messages. And this is what the text messages said. She said, quote, "But I cried when you left because I begged you to put a condom on and not put it in my rear, and you didn't listen. I don't care what our history is. No means no, Shannon." This is one of the alleged text messages from Jane Doe to Shannon Sharpe. And then she also says, quote, "I don't know how to process this," end quote, to which Shannon Sharpe reportedly asked if he could call her later. Now, when somebody accuses you of something on a text and your response is, "Let me call you later," it's giving very much, I don't want a paper trail of what I'm going to say to you with regard to these accusations that you are lobbing onto me. Just saying. So It's funny because Shannon Sharpe releases these text messages, outs this woman who was a Jane Doe when she filed this, releases these text messages thinking that he's going to bolster his credibility and bolster his narrative of the story and malign her character, and thus opening the door to text messages being released. And she fires back with text messages where she pretty much tells him to his face via text message, obviously, that she begged him to put a condom on. And obviously she's implying in this text message that he didn't, and that she begged him not to do things that she didn't consent to in the bedroom. And she even says, I don't care what our history is. No means no. Jane Doe understands how consent works. And his response to that is, I'm going to call you later so that we can talk this out. And there's no record of no written record of what I got to say about this. And I feel like everybody seems to be glossing over this aspect, these text messages, and the fact that this girl has claimed that he violated her. He violated her consent, and she has proof of her speaking to him about it. Allegedly, all of these text messages that they've released are alleged, but nonetheless. And it's funny because people will always, what's one of the biggest refrains when accusers come out after the fact? Well, why didn't you say anything then? Why didn't you say no in the moment? Why didn't you say anything? How come you still hung out? She did. She has text message proof of her reaching out to Shannon Sharpe and telling him that he violated her consent. She did reach out. And Shannon Sharpe came out and refuted her claims in part by releasing those text messages of her speaking, her sending sexually explicit text messages. So he did that in part by releasing that, but he also came on camera and talked about how this was basically just a shakedown and Tony Busby is after black men, et cetera, et cetera. We need to discuss how consent works. I don't think Shannon Sharpe understands how consent works, and I don't think a lot of men understand how consent works. They really think that the fact that Shannon Sharpe released text messages of Jane Doe allegedly making sexually explicit comments towards him and, requesting, kink fetish type stuff and talking about BDSM stuff. The fact that he released that with the clear intention of trying to say, hey, how could I rape somebody who is this type of person who wants to be roughed up? She said she wants it rough. She's sexually explicit. This is how she was talking to me. The fact that he released those text messages thinking that was going to be proof that he couldn't have raped her. She wanted it. Look, she said it in these text messages is proof that Shannon Sharpe does not understand how consent works. And the fact that a lot of men are using those text messages as proof that, hey, Shannon's right. He didn't take advantage of her. He didn't rape her. If he raped her, how can he rape somebody who was sending him these spicy text messages like this, these sexually explicit text messages? How could he rape her? Y'all don't understand how consent works. And what she's accusing him of shows that he really doesn't understand how consent works. She said it herself. She said, I begged you to put a condom on. Guys, stealthing is a real thing. For those who don't know what stealthing is, it's when a man pretends to put a condom on when he's having sex with a woman. He lies to her about having a condom on, or he secretly takes it off while they're in the middle of the act without her knowing. That is a violation of consent. She consented to She may have consented to hooking up with you. She didn't consent to having unprotected sex with you. She consented to having protected sex with you, not unprotected. So if you sneak off the condom without her knowledge and without her consent or without his consent, anybody you're sleeping with, then you are violating their consent. And in some states, you can go to jail for that. In some states, that is considered sexual assault. And it should be considered sexual assault, period. But the times have to catch up. And that's what this 20-year-old is accusing 55-year-old Shannon Sharpe of doing. Stealthing her, removing the condom without her, or not putting on a condom when she, quote, according to her, begged him to. And she agreed to one particular sex act. She didn't agree to every sex act. Just because she says she's down for one sex act doesn't mean she's down to do everything. And according to her, you did things to her that she didn't consent to. You put things in places that she didn't want you putting things into. Just because she's okay with you putting it here doesn't mean she's okay with you putting it there. And if she didn't consent to that, that is rape. That is sexual assault. And a lot of guys either, willfully ignorant, pretend that they don't realize that that's a violation of consent and therefore it is rape, or they really don't get it. And they really think that, just because I told you can have $5 today, that you can come back tomorrow and dig in my purse and get $20 later because I gave you $5 today. That's not how consent works. And y'all need to understand that, especially if you're engaging in sexual activity. You need to make sure that you understand what consent is. And she even said, the 20-year-old even said in her text message, no means no. The fact that a 20-year-old is telling this to a 55-year-old man, the fact that a 20-year-old is teaching a 55-year-old man about consent, 56-year-old man about consent, that says a lot. That speaks to the culture. Thankfully, some of these young folk have more sense than some of our elders. We need to talk about consent so that people can stop, like Shannon Sharpe, using old sexually explicit text messages to justify rape. That his attorney isn't using the same types of arguments. These are legal. This is what attorneys use, legal defenses that they use in court. Can you believe that? Like the fact that in 2025, an attorney, a person who has studied the law can stand there in front of a judge during a rape case and literally sit there and say, well, it wasn't rape because she had sex with him before. It wasn't rape because she sent these sexually explicit text messages prior to the rape that are talking about completely separate situations, by the way. The fact that this can be considered a legal defense is wild. And they're doing it. And you see these lawyers. That's why these lawyers be out here releasing these text messages thinking that, not thinking, they actually are. They actually are giving their clients not plausible deniability, but a defense that people really do accept. And you can see it by how people are reacting to the Shannon Sharpe thing. There are plenty of people, a lot of men, some women included, who are sitting here being like, look at these text messages she sent. How could he rape her when she had previously sent these sexually explicit text messages? That's not how consent works. And folks need to understand how consent works. Because if you don't understand how it works, you're going to be violating people's consent. Just like Shannon Sharpe allegedly violated this 20-year-old's consent. It's important for us to have these discussions about consent and for the cultural zeitgeist to catch up to, the nuance of consent. Just because I said yes today doesn't mean you can come get it tomorrow. Do you hear what I'm saying? Just because I like it rough doesn't mean that you can force me to have sex. That's rape. Just because, one of the things that Shannon Sharpe did was out her as an OnlyFans model. Because again, he's trying to malign her character. He's trying to act like, how could I rape her? She's a hoochie mama who makes OnlyFans videos. If she does sex work, then anybody can have access to her, right? Wrong. That is a violation of consent. This idea that women who do sex work can't be raped, that is not true. That is if they have not consented, you are a rapist and you need to own it. And you need to understand that so that you can prevent yourself from getting into situations like Shannon Sharpe is in today. There was this African country, I cannot remember. I've tried to find this. I saw this little video, or maybe it was an article. This is years ago on Facebook. And it was this African country. I want to say it was Rwanda or something I feel like it was a Central African country. And they had made this national effort. Basically, they had been having a lot of issues with rape in their country, a lot of issues with sexual assaults of women and girls in their country. It was an epidemic, okay? And so in this country, because of this, they had made this national effort to educate boys and girls as well, but young boys, school age, elementary, middle school, high school, young boys, to educate them about consent, so that they would, so they could try to address this rape epidemic that they were having in their country. And after, however long they had started implementing these programs, teaching young boys, young children about consent, the rape statistics dropped significantly, considerably. And they were talking about how sometimes these little boys would be schooling their fathers and their uncles and their grandparents about consent because they had learned about it in school. And they were seeing this trickle out effect, and how literally they had the numbers to prove that teaching these little boys about consent at an early age, teaching children about consent at an early age, it literally nosedived the amount of rapes that were happening in that country. I wish I could remember the name of that country. If anybody knows, oh my gosh, I would love, because I wanted to talk about it on this podcast, but I can't find. This is years ago that that I saw this. So if anybody knows what country I'm talking about, please put it in the comments if you're seeing this somewhere on social media. So yeah, we really need to start teaching about consent. If that's what can happen in a country where I think they had implemented it for not even, not a long time. I don't think it had been, more than a few years that they were implementing this, that they saw such a drastic change. If that can happen, if they can experience that over there, what can happen if we do that everywhere, all over the planet, especially in this country, teaching little boys, especially, but children, about consent. We have to learn. We have to understand, because if you don't learn, then you end up being like Shannon Sharpe, a 56-year-old man, thinking that just because a 20-year-old girl, which we're going to get into why are you with a 20-year-old girl, but that a 20-year-old young woman texting you sexually explicit text messages and being an OnlyFans model somehow means that you could not have possibly raped her. That's suddenly a defense for you not having raped her because she was an OnlyFans model and she sent you some sexually explicit text messages. If we don't start addressing consent and teaching consent, especially to young children, that's how you end up with 56-year-old grown men. That's how you end up having 20-year-old little girls having in text message exchanges, teaching 56-year-old men, Shannon Sharpe, what consent means. You had a 20-something-year-old girl in your text messages telling you no means no. You had to learn that from a 20-year-old girl at 56 years old. So I think it's important for us culturally to start teaching young people, especially young little boys, about consent. And you can start teaching consent early, baby. Early. It doesn't have to be when they hit middle school or high school. You can teach consent early. And when you do that, maybe we can experience what that African country experienced when they started teaching young boys about consent and saw a precipitous drop in the rates of rapes that were happening in their country. Otherwise, you end up with Shannon Sharpe's. Now Shannon Sharpe is fighting these sexual assault allegations And because he doesn't understand how the hell consent works, or at least maybe he does and he's just being willfully ignorant. Time will tell. Time will tell. Another aspect that I've noticed with regard to this sexual assault case with Shannon Sharpe, this sexual assault lawsuit, is how, Shannon Sharpe is out here, they're all, the attorney who filed this is Tony Busby. And it's like, they're all, any of these guys who's been accused by a client of Tony Busby, they're all now trying to gang up on him and basically trying to be like, oh, well, to turn it on to Tony Busby, like they're the victims and Tony Busby is the problem. He's the one, he's just, out to get these black rappers. And that's their new defense against any lawsuit that's brought up by Tony Busby. And that's what Shannon Sharpe is doing. He said the same thing in his little, like, I'm innocent video. He said that, Tony Busby's out to get black men. He went after Jay-Z. He went after P. Diddy. And, I'm sorry, Shannon Sharpe, but that's not going to work anymore. It's 2025. These black rappers, these male rappers, they're out here using these old tactics, these old, 90s tactics of trying to take over the narrative and confuse the narrative and control the narrative and flip the narrative. Darvo, right? Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender, right? Back in the 90s, y'all could do this because social media wasn't a thing. But now social media is a thing, y'all. So back in the day, y'all could take over the narrative. You could pay your little homies at the little magazines and the newspaper to write little stories, trying to discredit their attorney and trying to discredit the accusers, and you could take control of the narrative. But it's 2025 now. Social media exists. So you will never get that same full control of the narrative that y'all used to have in the 90s. And but you're still using those same tactics over and over again, and they're starting to fall flat now. So hearing all of these guys be like, oh, it's a shakedown. It's always a shakedown. It's always a shakedown. When the freaking like 3rd, 4th, 5th, sometimes 10th, 15th, 30th accuser comes out and we're supposed to believe it's still a shakedown. And that it's always a shakedown. Always, because that's your go-to defense. And now it's, well, this attorney, Tony Busby, he's out to get black rappers and black men in the industry. And you know what? Two things can be true. Maybe he is, but guess what? Y'all are giving him stuff to work with. You're giving him fodder to work with, aren't you? So I just think that it's interesting that we see these celebrities who are being accused of sexual assault falling back on the same old tactics. Discredit the accuser, discredit the attorney, put out text messages that try to make the accuser look bad, expose their OnlyFans accounts, all this nonsense, and as usual, it's them trying to come for the black man. They always trying to come for the black man, I just think it's interesting because I'm like, y'all, these tactics, they're tried and true because y'all have tried and trued them a lot. And they're just not as effective in the age of social media as they were back in the 90s before social media could counter the narrative that you guys had the power and control to drive and to create, where you are able to turn yourself into the victim despite having been the one that was accused of victimizing folks. So, folks, let's move on, shall we? No contact parents and no contact adult children have vastly different perspectives when it comes to them identifying the reasons for why they are estranged with each other. I came across this article. It was a study, actually, called Giving Voice to the Silence of Family Estrangement, comparing reasons of estranged parents and adult children in a non-matched sample. So basically, there was a study done of 898 parents and adult children who had gone no contact, their children who had either you were a parent whose child had gone no contact with you, or you were the child who had gone no contact with the parent. And they had done this study of almost 900 of these people. And they found out through this study that parents and adult children who have gone no contact with those parents, they have very, very different perspectives of why the child has gone no contact. This is part of the abstract of this study, which is basically just a summary of the study. The study's not that long. It's only about 9 pages. So if you want to read it for yourself, feel free to go check it out. But this is what it says in the abstract. Quote, "The frequency of parents and children's reasons for estrangement differed significantly from each other. Parents reported that their primary reason for becoming estranged stemmed from their children's objectionable relationships or sense of entitlement, whereas adult children most frequently attributed their estrangement to their parents' toxic behavior or feeling unsupported and unaccepted. Parents also reported that they were unsure of the reason for their estrangement significantly more often than the children did." End quote. When I read that, it's like when the science backs up life. If you've got no contact with your parents or parent, or low contact with your parent, tell me, raise your hand if this sounds familiar to you. Your parents believing that you have become estranged from them because of your objectionable relationships, okay? They're blaming it on who you're dating or who you're married to, okay? Or a sense of entitlement. They think that you're just entitled and that you are just, you're selfish and entitled, and that's why you've gone no contact with them. Or they're not even sure why you haven't got no contact with them. How many, if you are a no contact adult child of a parent, you've got no contact with your parent, how many of y'all have heard or know that this is how your parent perceives things? That you went no contact because of who you're with, who you're dating, or who you're married to, or because you're just so entitled and you're so selfish and you just want everything to be your way. Or on the flip side, they act like they don't even know why you went no contact. They don't even understand why you went no contact. I mean, when I read this, I was like, wow, so it's not just my parents. It's not just mi madre y mi papa. I was like, so according to this study, this is a trend. This is a trend. Meanwhile, we are saying that the reason why we've got no contact is because we feel like our parents' behavior is toxic, or that our parents don't support us, or they don't accept us. But to them, in their mind, they either don't have any idea why we've got no contact, or they think that it's because of the relationships that we're in, or because we're just so freaking entitled. We're like two ships passing in the night. No contact parents and no contact adult children. Two ships passing in the night. We're having two completely different experiences. And no wonder why we've got no contact. We're not even living in the same reality. You think as a parent that your child has got no contact with you for completely opposite reasons from what the actual child feels. I mean, talk about the disconnect. And that's part of the reason why they've got no contact. There's such a disconnect there. According to this study, one of the main reasons that parents reported being estranged from their child was because of objectionable relationships. Translate that as, they don't like my partner. How many people have gone no contact because their parents got beef with their partner? Whether it's giving mother-in-law, jealous mother-in-law of the daughter. It's giving LGBTQ, I don't approve of your lifestyle. Okay? It's giving, I don't like who you're dating because you're not straight. It's giving racism. I don't like that you're dating a non-white person or you're dating outside of your race, right? And that's what they perceive. That's what most parents who have gone, whose children have gone no contact with them, that's what most of them perceive as the root, not most of them, but many of them perceive as the root of their estrangement. How many of y'all are in situations where you've got no contact with your parent because they don't approve of your partner? And what's so wild is the parents are perceiving that as, the partner has turned my child against me. When in reality, it's no, you have turned your child against you because you refuse to accept your child's partner. Whether it's because you're just a jealous mother-in-law, or because you don't accept queer relationships because you're a homophobe, or because you're a freaking racist and you don't want your child dating outside of their race. And notice that's not the reason that these parents cite for going no contact. They say that it's just objectionable relationships because, they believe they have the authority to object to your relationship. In the same study, another major reason that parents reported that they think that their adult children have gone no contact was that they had a sense of entitlement. Anytime that I post about no contact parents and no contact relationships, I always have all of these angry parents in my comments talking about, oh, you guys are just so entitled. You guys just think we're supposed to kiss your ass. You guys are so selfish. That's why you've got no contact. They refuse to listen to the discussion that we're having as adult children who have gone no contact. They refuse to listen to that. And instead, they're like, no, we don't know. You don't know what you're talking about. We haven't gone no contact for the reasons that you said. You didn't go no contact with me for the reasons that you said. No, it's just because you're selfish and you're entitled. Because especially boomer parents and that 50% of Gen X parents, okay? In their minds, they're like, you're ungrateful. That's the other thing. They call us ungrateful. You're entitled, you're ungrateful, and you're selfish. We gave you a roof over your head. We put food on the table for you every day. We make sure that you went to the best schools. Did we, emotionally neglect you? Sure. Did we abuse you verbally, mentally, emotionally, and sometimes physically? Maybe. But we put a roof over your head. So if you feel like I was a bad parent, it's not because I didn't show up emotionally for you. I didn't show up in a supportive capacity for you, that I didn't show up there for you mentally at all. It's not because of that. It's because you're selfish and you're ungrateful and you're entitled. And that was reflected in this study because that's what a lot of these parents said in this study was the reason for their children going no contact with them. How many people have heard that from their parents that they've gone no contact with, or they know that that's what their parents are out there telling people? My whole entire comment section when I talk about no contact families will be parents calling the children who have gone no contact ungrateful, entitled, selfish. And then, of course, the parents who just they're just so clueless. They don't know. I don't know why my daughter doesn't want to talk to me. I don't understand why. Did I verbally abuse her? Yeah. But my mom verbally abused me and I still went to Sunday dinner every single week. I don't know why. I'm so clueless. It's the selective memory parents, right? They don't remember all of the abuse. They don't remember all of the fucked up things they said to you and did to you. They don't remember all the toxicity. They don't remember conveniently, right? And that was reflected in this study as well. When that's what the reason for estrangement that a lot of parents gave, they didn't even know. I don't know. Why are you estranged? Why did your child go no contact with you? I don't know. Are you sure you don't know? You really that clueless? You forgot about, first of all, when an adult child goes no contact with their parents, that is the final straw. That's not the first step. That's like step Z. That's not A. By the time an adult child has gone no contact with their parents, they have already tried on multiple occasions to fix the relationship, to tell you what went wrong, to tell you how you guys can move forward together, to tell you how you can do better. They've given you chance after chance. I promise you, they have verbalized over and over again why they feel the way they do. And the only reason why they went no contact with you was because you refused to listen and you refused to change. And that's reflected in these parents in this study when, asked why their adult child has got no contact, that so many of these parents, their reason was, I don't know. What an insult. What an insult to the children who have gone no contact with their parents. What you mean you don't know? So you just decided to block out my whole entire childhood full of torment and trauma at your hands? And now that I've decided to set a boundary after trying over and over again, futilely, to try to fix things with you, now you acting like you don't even know why I went no contact with you? Please. Get out of here. Get out of here. And it's so interesting because in the study where we saw the divergence between what parents of no contact children think the reason for the no contact is versus the children of no contact parents thinking the reason for estrangement is, the children, their estrangement reasons were the parents' toxic behavior, feeling unsupported and unaccepted. And raise your hand if that's you. Raise your hand if that's why you stopped having contact with your parents. Raise your hand if it's because of their toxic behavior or because you feel like they don't support you or they don't accept you. That's the reason why. It's mostly because of your toxic behavior, because of your toxic boomer Gen X behavior. Thinking that, well, as long as I do better than my parents, and I'm not as abusive as my parents, then I'm doing good. Thinking that continuing the generational curses over and over and over again, instead of stopping them, breaking them, continuing them, thinking that, well, I'm all right. I did, as long as there was a roof over my kids' heads. Meanwhile, engaging some of the most toxic, vile behavior towards your own freaking children. That's why your child went no contact. It's not because of their objectionable partners, their objectionable relationships. It's not because of, them being entitled or selfish or ungrateful. It's not a reason that just befuddles you. It's because of your toxic behavior that you refuse to take responsibility for. It's that simple. Or it's because you didn't support your child and you didn't accept them. You don't accept that they're queer. You don't accept that they don't want to be a doctor. You don't want to accept their lifestyle. You don't want to accept their partners. You're not supportive of their dreams and what they want to do. You're their biggest freaking hater. You're their biggest dream killer in their life. That's why we go no contact with you. Not for these nonsense reasons that y'all have decided to make up in your head so that you don't have to take accountability for your toxic ass behavior. It's not because my partner turned me against you. It's not because we didn't go no contact because I'm in a gay relation. I'm in a queer relationship and you're a homophobe and I've just decided to separate myself from you. No, it's because you're a fucking homophobe. And I'm not going to subject myself and put myself around myself and my partner around your homophobia. It's not just because I'm, a bad girl who's, not living by the word of the Lord. I don't know. It's just so interesting how we, like, the results of this study that found that parents of estranged kids and the estranged kids have completely different perspectives on why they are estranged. It just speaks. It's so funny because it just speaks to the fact of why they're estranged in the first place. They're just not on the same page. You're just not on the same page. Y'all see the world completely differently. You think that as a parent, your child has gone no contact for these reasons, and they've gone no contact with you really for these reasons. And you refuse to hear when they're trying to tell you that, hey, actually it's X, Y, and Z. You're like, no, that's not what it is. It's not because of my behavior as a parent. It's not because I'm unsupportive. It's not because I don't accept you and your lifestyle. It's because you're ungrateful. It's because you are entitled and you're selfish. It's because you're in an objectionable relationship. It's because your partner turned you against me. It's because, it's like, or they just don't even know why. I don't know why. I don't even know what I ever did to that kid. I was such a good parent. I don't know what I ever did to them. I have no idea why. I'm such a saint. I'm such a saint and I'm so innocent. I don't even know why my child went no contact with me. Yeah. Okay, Karen. I believe it, Bev. Sure, Brad. Sure, Bob. I believe it. So I just thought that was such an interesting aspect of the no contact relationship discussion, if you will, that parents and children who have become estranged, no contact parents and children really are not seeing eye to eye on even the reason why they've gone no contact. And that just lets you know why they've got no contact in the first place, because they're not on the same page. Two ships passing in the night. And it really sucks as a child that has gone no contact with a parent or low contact with a parent, because no matter what you say or do, if your parent doesn't want to accept your perspective and your reasoning for why you've gone no contact with them, it's a lost cause. If your parent wants to continue to be in denial, because that's really what this is, right? Like these reasons that the parents think their child went no contact with them for, objectionable relationships, being entitled and selfish and ungrateful, or just being completely clueless, pretending, I'm not gonna say pretending, but being so lost in the sauce, you don't even know why your child went no contact with you. These reasons for doing that, these reasons are really, they're just denial. They're just a cover for denial. Why is your child no contact? Oh, it's because they're in a relationship that's objectionable. It's a cover. It's a cover for the denial of you as a parent not accepting the truth. Because like I said before, when a child goes no contact with their parent, that is a last resort. They have already tried to let you know a plethora of times why they went no contact, why they went no contact with you, or why they feel the way they feel, why they feel that, whatever the reason is for them saying, I can't be in contact with you anymore. They've already tried multiple times to express that to you. You refuse to listen. You go into denial, you block it out, and then you come up with these fantastical reasons for why your child went no contact, which of course make you out to be the good guy and make you out to be the victim in the situation and make your child out to be the problem. Oh, well, they went no contact because they're in an objectionable relationship. They went no contact because they're entitled, because they're selfish, because they're ungrateful. They went no contact and I don't even know why. I'm such a sweet mom, such a sweet innocent parent. I don't even know why they went no contact. right? Darvo, you switch it up. You deny. You don't know why. You deny, and you reverse victim and offender, and you attack. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. And that's what this is. This is just Darvo. And so, if you are a child who has gone no contact, unfortunately, until or unless your parents are willing to get out of denial and actually, listen, like take the pride, take the shame, the shame that you're masking as pride, like take it away and put it down, let it go. And so they can actually listen. Until they do that, it's a lost cause, and you're just going to have to be no contact with them. And it freaking sucks. It sucks because this is such a simple fix. But unfortunately, the shame that is being masked by pride, by parents whose children have gone no contact with them, is blocking them and preventing them from doing the tiniest of things, which is actually hearing their child, actually hearing what their child has to say, and changing the behaviors. Unfortunately, that's going to block you off from doing that. And as the child, there's nothing you can do. And that, my dears, is why we go no contact, because there's no other options. We've exhausted every other option, and we've come to the end of the road, and there's nowhere else to go. It's a brick wall, and we've given up on trying to break through that brick wall. And that is why children go no contact with their parents. It's not the first resort. It's the last resort. It's the last ditch effort. And folks, with that being said, we've come to the end of another episode of No Niche Zone, the podcast about everything. You can find us across all platforms at No Niche Zone Pod. You can also subscribe to our YouTube at No Niche Zone Pod. Y'all watch some of my videos. I'm trying to get my hours up, y'all. I mean, YouTube is an interesting place. It's an interesting place. So come support your girl over there, all right? And you can also follow me personally across all platforms at Pris the Goddess. And you can send in your listener letters to nonichezone@gmail.com. Y'all, with that being said, we'll see you next time.